everybody. Welcome in to It's amazing to think about, but Week 9 and our NFL Mega Preview. This is the Early Edge, your sports betting brand of record. All of the odds at the Early Edge are brought to you by and presented by our great partners at the King of All Sports Books, BetMGM. Now, as the trade deadline looms today, a lot of movement going on around the league, but one big one we're going to hit on here in just a second. 4 buys this week: the Broncos, the Lions, the 49ers, and the Jags, which means there are 14 games. And on this show, turn on your notifications. We break down every single game by two of the absolute very best. Let's bring in the stars of the show. You know them. You love them. The stoic one is here, RJ White. The maestro is here, Larry Hartstein. And gentlemen, I want both of your takes before we jump in to each game. The announcement to today, the Commanders, who technically aren't out of the playoffs yet, they're unloading players, but the big one, Chase Young, and RJ, I'll come right to you, going to the 49ers. What do you make of the move?
I will cede my time to the SportsLine projection model and Stephen O, because he just sent some updated odds. And the move increases the San Francisco win total projected by 0.3. It does not sound like that is a lot, but for a half a season, that is pretty significant. They jump up about 7% to win the division, up to 65.5%. Their championship odds to win the Super Bowl jumps up 3%. It's now 14.1, so about a 1 in 7 chance there. So a pretty impactful trade for them to get him on the was already a pretty good defensive line. We know that defense has had issues the last few weeks getting some stops. Joe Burrow did anything they wanted to last week on them. So we'll see if this helps to get more pressure here with Chase Young, because his specialty is getting after the quarterback.
Yeah, Maestro, begs the question, is the 3-game losing streak part of the reason the 49ers felt the need to go strong here?
Yeah, it's a bold move, but they're desperate with the way this defense is playing. And I think they're really suffering from the new coordinator. I think they missed D'Amico Ryans, and they just don't have the same depth that they had last year in terms of their defense. So they had to do something. But like RJ said, I'm not sure that this is an impact move, just because, you know, it hasn't really benefited the Commanders' pass defense at all.
Amazing, amazing. But if you want all of it, you can go to cbssports.com, and there is a collection of all the different trades today, how it's going to affect different teams, and ultimately here, how it affects the betting lines and what value you can have on a team. Now, do not forget, every time you come into the show, hit that like button for me, please. It really helps the show grow, and then you can put up the chat, and you can just talk as much as you absolutely want to. All right, 14 games to get to, so let's jump right in. Game number 1, Thursday night football, 8:15 p.m. Eastern is the kick. Now, this is a tough one in the AFC, kind of a rubber meets the road type of game. The Titans taking on the Steelers. Pittsburgh favored by 3, total 36.5. RJ, let's start with you. This just screams ugliness, but somebody's got to do something.
It screams a lot of people are going to want to play the Titans after what they saw with Will Levis in his debut. Looked very good in that. I would caution against that. Going on the road on a short week in Pittsburgh is very different from playing the Atlanta Falcons at home on 2 weeks of preparation. He had a lot of big plays in that debut. To DeAndre Hopkins, we saw him get 3 touchdowns. He was also very inconsistent at times. I think if this pass rush can get to him, and we know the Tennessee offensive line is pretty brutal, 30th in sack rate. If the defense can get there consistently, it's going to be a long day for Levis. I don't know that the Titans score a ton of points here in this brutal first road start for him. But I have no confidence in the Pittsburgh offense either. You know, they should succeed with the pass against Tennessee's, average defense there, especially after they traded Kevin Byard last week. I would prefer it if a healthy Trubisky was under quarterback to at least give us a spark there, but it looks like Kenny Pickett's going to give it a go. I don't know if he's going to get through the whole game, so we'll see that. They could also get Cameron Hayward back in this game. I know he was trending toward practicing, and if he plays, that also helps their defense. My lean here would be to Pittsburgh. Would like to get it at 2.5 instead of 3. I do think the line should be on the other side of 3, because I'm a little more apprehensive in Levis in his first road start than you would probably expect if you just watch that game against Atlanta.
RJ brings up such a great point, because one thing we've learned over the last few years here at the show, Maestro, is that it's so easy to look at one performance and say, man, that's the guy. And then you say it's all about matchup, preparing, all those different things. Do you agree with what RJ just said as far as being careful with the rookie quarterback?
Yeah, the arm strength was very impressive, but some of those were some really secondary breakdowns by the Falcons where he hit DeAndre Hopkins wide open. There was an amazing throw to Nick Westbrook, Akine, that he did, that just showed incredible arm strength. And yes, there is a lot of promise and potential, but going into Pittsburgh is a completely different story. the one thing about the Steelers laying a full field goal, they've been outgained in every single game this season. And Kenny Pickett says he's going to play and he's not 100%. For me, it's still going to be Pittsburgh or pass, but I'm not looking to play it.
All right. Again, that is Thursday Night Football game 1 in week number 9. Game number 2, we're going all the way to Germany for this game. And this is a matchup everybody's been waiting for. Everybody wants to see. And it is a standalone. 9:30 a.m. Eastern time, 6:30 on the West Coast where I sit right now. It's the Dolphins. It's the Chiefs. And Kansas City coming off their worst performance maybe in years. First time they haven't scored an offensive touchdown since 2021. They looked awful. The whole team was sick. Patrick looked very sick as well. So now, somehow the Chiefs are still favored by 2.5. The total 50.5. And we've seen teams not necessarily, RJ, adjust well when they go to play overseas. What do you make of this one?
Yeah, but they're going to be leaving relatively early. I think Miami might have already left. I think they plan to leave super early, just like Baltimore did when they showed up and they won that game against Tennessee. Kansas City will leave a little later, but still not super late. So I don't think there's much of an issue there for those teams. It's a very good matchup. Miami's defense allowed just 218 yards to New England. New England's not a great offense, but 1 of 9 on third down, is especially worth noting. And Jalen Ramsey back looked good, had an interception. So he's going to be somebody you need here when you're going up against Patrick Mahomes. I didn't mark the Chiefs down at all for that loss with Mahomes sick. Can't really take much away from that performance. We know that they're better than that, and they were actually trending a lot better than that with their receivers before that game. I just wonder if he won't be at his best with this trip because, you get that illness. Obviously was not feeling well over the weekend in those cold temperatures, and then you immediately get on a plane and you got to go on an international trip in a weird place. So we'll have to monitor that, see how he's feeling later in the week, see if it's worth backing the Chiefs. I think this line is about right here because the Chiefs defense is great versus the pass. Miami might have to pivot to the run focus attack. We've seen them do it at times this year, but their backfield isn't as full strength as it used to be. Mostert's been nursing an injury, and we of course know Achane is still out on the IR there. So we'll see if Miami can contain Kansas City. We'll see if Kansas City contain Miami. Should be a fun game both ways. I would lean to Kansas City, but I don't love it at 2.5.
And I think a lot of people also, Larry, are going to lean to the over just naturally because of what these two teams present. But Rick in the chat says, even with Miami and the Chiefs, it's going to go under. Sometimes it can reverse the script. What are your thoughts?
The Chiefs defense acquitted themselves well, 3.7 yards per play against Denver. It was the offense that was embarrassing. I know there was sickness going throughout the team. Sky Moore drops a perfectly thrown touchdown pass. And, Coach, I don't need to remind you about that. I just think it's so interesting that the line doesn't move at all, and the Chiefs are still favorites, by 2.5 because everyone expects the Chiefs to have a nice bounce-back game. The one thing – and I do lean Dolphins, but the one thing that scares me is whenever they've had to step up this season against the Bills, against the Eagles, against one of those top teams, it has not gone well. They're great at blowing out the bottom feeders. They've proven that over and over, especially at home. But I'm going to lean Chiefs and lean under especially if you can get 51.
And that is the key. They have laid those eggs away from Miami. Again, last week they scored over 30. They won by 14, but it was at home. This is obviously going to be in Germany. All right, game number 3, and this is really disappointing, guys, because we tease about Kirk Cousins a lot and being underrated. He's a really good quarterback, and furthermore, if you watch Netflix, he's a really good guy. And now he is out for the rest of the year. He tore his Achilles. It sucks. They're traveling to Atlanta, a first-place team, or at least they have been in the NFC South. 4.5 is the spread. 37 is the total. RJ, how big of a deal now that the Vikings are without their guy?
It's a massive deal. He was, it's one of the biggest drop-offs in the league. I think I have him at 6 points going down from him to Jaron Hall, a very under-tested, rookie out of BYU that we're not expecting much from. They did trade for Joshua Dobbs today, so he might be the starter after this week, but you don't expect him to come in and play as the starter right away. So you probably need a little bit to learn the playbook, but we've seen him, do that on short, work in the past. He did it with Tennessee, came in and played after 8 days with the team there, did it with the Cardinals, traded for him right, at the end of the preseason there and started week 1 and was actually competitive with the Cardinals. So we know he's a quick learner. He'll be able to go, I think, next week. Doesn't really help you this week, but I'm not really interested in laying points with this Falcons offense that always seems to win games by 3 when they win. They had a strong defense. They did lose Grady Jarrett, and that's not as big a loss as Kirk Cousins, but it is pretty significant. But I'm not really expecting much from the Minnesota offense in this game. Their defense is up to 10th in yards per play. I keep harping on they're a much better defense than people would probably realize, but they are better versus the run. We'll see how the injuries on Atlanta affect them. Drake London dealing with a groin injury. If he doesn't go, that makes the offense a little more toothless for Atlanta. My power ratings say there should be 6 because of the big downgrade. So you would think the value is on the Falcons. I kind of want the line to inflate and then maybe fade them with the backup quarterback here just because the Falcons can't win by margin and we see the super low total.
Is it amazing how different you can look at two teams? Both teams are 4-4. The Minnesota Vikings, Larry, though, they play in a division with the Detroit Lions. They're 2 games back without a quarterback. Atlanta tied for the Saints for first place in the NFC South. 2 completely different things. What do we do?
So interesting because the Falcons haven't announced if it is indeed going to be Taylor Heineke, which I think it will because, I mean, the Desmond Ridder experiment should be over by now. And Heineke getting a full week of first-team reps should be the guy. And he showed a lot last season. I mean, he at least showed he's better than Desmond Ridder. So I expect him to go with Taylor Heineke. But RJ's right. If you have just backed these backup quarterbacks in these spots where everybody thinks they cannot succeed and you get a good number, like if this should rise all the way to 6, those guys have covered at an incredible rate. And Jaron Hall was not good in the preseason, but this guy can run around. He ran for nearly 800 yards at BYU. So he's very athletic, can make some plays. And like everyone has said about the Falcons, they do not beat you by margin. They want to run the ball. They want to win the game 23-20. That's basically their goal from the outset.
Which makes this 4.5 number just kind of something you want to stay away from unless you can make it make sense. All right, game number 4. And officially, after what happened last Sunday, gentlemen, the Cardinals are dead to me. One of the worst bad beats you'll ever see in football. Onside kicks are never recovered, apparently, until they are by the Cardinals. They cover 8.5. They lose by 7. If you didn't watch it, go back. I can't relive it. Now, they're traveling to Cleveland. And RJ, I love when you say, I don't trust this team to beat anybody by more than this. That's how I feel about this spread. Browns 8, total 37.5. But RJ, I want you to hold tight because Maestro, this is part of a best bet for him. So Larry, why don't you start? What do you like in this one?
Well, the Cardinals haven't announced who is going to start at quarterback between Kyler Murray or Clayton Tune, but all indications are let's give Kyler Murray one more week, not have him go into Cleveland as his first start against one of the best defenses in football, and have him start at home against the Falcons. That is a much better matchup. So it could be rookie Clayton Tune for the Cardinals. And I don't care who it is for the Browns. I'm putting the Browns in a teaser, bringing this down to -2 or -1.5 when I sent it in earlier. This Browns defense is so good. They probably should have won the game in Seattle. And just to beat Clayton Tune, an Arizona team like Coach, that should have been yet another double-digit loss for the Cardinals. I believe that would have been their 4th or 5th straight by double digits. No running game whatsoever. He's up against it facing the Browns.
No doubt about it. And it's so key that if you're a SportsLine member to get this, I would do this number or the show on Tuesday because there's such a difference having a half as opposed to 2. So make sure you play the teaser at exactly the right moment for you. Now, RJ, let me come over to you because it feels like the way the Maestro's playing the Browns and this game, it's the only way that you can play it. Your take.
You have fun with that, Larry. I am not playing the Browns to cover a teaser when they're this big spread. I don't trust this offense at all. 29th in yards per play, cannot throw the ball well, 31st on third down. I don't care who the quarterback is either. Both of them are terrible, and neither of them have shown that they can execute on offense. Browns trading away Donovan Peoples-Jones. They don't have confidence in their receiving game either, so I'm not sure how they move the ball here with their collection of running backs they have too. That doesn't look great either. You expect the Cleveland defense to win this game. They're better than Arizona's, obviously. They did just give up 6.6 yards per play to Seattle. They did just give up 6.8 yards per play to Indy before that. So they haven't been playing at the top of the level that we expect from them the last few weeks, really. Clayton Tune is not somebody you expect to come in and light up the scoreboard here. I just don't think that this Cleveland offense should be favored by 8 against anyone. Too many points to lay with them. If I play it, it's going to be Arizona and hoping I get Kyler Murray. And even if I don't, hoping Clayton Tune gets me a 17-10 loss or a 17-13 type of loss.
If you would have told anybody 6 months ago that a P.J. Walker-led offense would be favored by 8, they would have said, really? Is that game in Toronto, Montreal, Ottawa? Certainly not the National Football League. Now, you can get so much more in-depth analysis from my two guys and a slew of incredible handicappers. All you got to do is download the CBS Sports app. Go right in the corner, and there you see. I love it. It's growing in leaps and bounds. CBS Sports HQ.
We need the sports news anywhere.
We've got breaking news to bring you.
Then get your sports anytime you want them. Big trade news overnight to discuss.
Because we know you need sports all the time.
A lot of movement in the rankings this week.
A legend adds to their legacy.
We're bringing you that breaking news right here on HQ.
CBS Sports HQ, anywhere, anytime, all the time.
Okay, here we go. Game number 5 in this one. Wow, I don't even know how to attack it because the Rams are traveling again after getting blown out by the Dallas Cowboys, giving up 43 points. Green Bay has looked just slow. They've got a lot of injuries they've dealt with some of their biggest players, but yet Green Bay favored by 3, RJ, the total sitting at 39.5. Where are we going?
It feels like the market is leaning toward Matthew Stafford missing this game. He suffered a thumb injury on, talk about dumb calls, one of the dumbest calls you'll see, throwing to your quarterback on a 2-point conversion when he already banged his thumb earlier in the game. And then that's where he injures his thumb and he's out potentially for the rest of that game and future games. So we'll see if he's able to play. He was also dealing with several other injuries coming into the game. So very beat up Stafford. And we saw how that affected him last year when he wasn't healthy. And then when he finally had to sit out, that offense completely went into the tank. So even though Green Bay's offense is terrible, they just cannot score in the first half for whatever the reason. I had on the Pick Six podcast, I had a Minnesota money line in the first half, and it came to pass. It was easily a cash, even though Vikings didn't look great. Maybe this fading Rams defense helps them. They've allowed 23 points in 4 of their last 5. They really just need the offense to keep them in the game. But if Stafford's not playing, I don't know if they could do that. So I think I'm going to lean to Green Bay here. Even at -3, I don't love it. Their defense should carry the game here, and hopefully they can win a game like 12-6 and cover this number.
James in the chat said, I feel like the whole early slate is a stay away to me. James, you might be right. Maestro, let me come over to you. What do you make of this one? Because I don't know at all.
Yeah, the Packers have been so disappointing, but this is the spot for them. Come on, the Rams are just so depleted, and Brett Rippon, if they can't beat Brett Rippon at home by more than a field goal, they should really close that franchise up. I mean, it has been so disappointing to see this offense do nothing with a lot of talent, but yet you have to give them a little bit of a pass because they've had so many injuries, but this is the spot. I mean, this has to be a Packers win by more than a field goal, or else there are going to be some serious questions about Jordan Love, Matt LaFleur, etc.
Speaking of the name Rippon, do you know who was in the group ahead of me yesterday in my big charity thing up in wine country, Maestro?
Mark Rippon?
Mark Rippon, that is correct. Mark Rippon, hell of a golfer. He won the American Century Championship twice. Unbelievable golfer. Very cool guy, too. He was like the big award recipient this year for the charity with Brett Saberhagen, World Series winning pitcher. It was pretty cool. Now, Mark Rippon was a quarterback for who? The Washington football team, the Commanders. That's our next game. See how that works together? That's next level hosting right there, ladies and gentlemen. So the Commanders, who got rid of their entire team today, they're going on the road to the Patriots, who we thought maybe after their win over the Bills, they would be heading in that direction. And they looked lost down in Miami, losing by 14. But yet, they're favored by 3.5, according to BetMGM. Total sitting at 40. And RJ, you have a best bet in this game. Where are you headed?
I'm heading to Washington. I know that they just traded away 2 defensive players, so you're telling me that their pass defense is not going to be good moving forward. That is a shock to me, considering I've watched them every week this year, and they have been atrocious already. So I don't know what effect trading these guys is going to have on this team. They couldn't stop anybody already. And they're coming off a great game from their offense, though. Sam Howell's best game, especially because he only got sacked once against an elite defense. He found a way to finally get rid of the ball early enough to not take all these sacks, and the offense responded to it and just completely tore up a Philly defense that is a little bit undermanned in the secondary with injuries, but is still very impressive. Washington defense still awful versus the pass. It's going to be awful no matter who's at defensive end. I don't know if New England's offense can take advantage of it. They're 26th in yards per play. They've been under 201 net yards passing in 7 of their last 8. They just lost their best receiver, Kendrick Bourne, really the only effective receiver they have. So you're really having the offense run through like 6th-round pick Demario Douglas at this point. That's probably going to be your top weapon. I don't know that they're going to be able to take advantage of this very bad Washington defense. The New England defense also 30th in sack rate, 30th in interception rate. I don't know that they can carry New England in this game with the Washington offense playing well. I think Washington is the better team in this game, even though the line is saying New England is clearly the better team at 3.5. That's why I have Washington plus 3.5 as a best bet.
No, I absolutely love it. All right, we're going to Washington. By the way, a little bonus for all of you. Guess who is in the chat as we speak? Coach Phil McKagan from Primetime Early Edge. You have any questions for him on anything NFL related, put him in the chat. He will answer them for you in real time. Coach Phil, great to have you as part of the show today. Now, Maestro, let me come over to you. Commanders do feel like the play today. The Patriots have been so inconsistent. And a lot of people are reveling in the fact that Bill Belichick is ending his career. We don't know when it's going to end like this. But are we getting too fast to the demise of the Patriots and Bill Belichick?
No, the demise is in full swing. And I'm with RJ because even though the team is trading away 2 big names, that doesn't apply to the players to say they're going to tank. That can be, 2 separate narratives there. And this offense looked good and probably should have gotten a cover against the Eagles. They were in command or at least covering most of the way, and then it fell apart for them at the end. But I will take the Commanders plus the points as well because the Patriots offense shouldn't be laying this many.
Okay, very good. By the way, guys, Phil, last night, I don't know if you know this, we made history on Primetime Early Edge. He cashed his first bet ever. And all of a sudden, he's the greatest capper in the world in the chat, apparently. Yeah, Maestro.
And he cashed it like twice because I think Jahmyr Gibbs had like 200 yards.
He did. He had like 280 yards, whatever it was. But, yes, it was nice. The combo number was nice. All you guys, different ways, except EC, of course. You all hit Gibbs. And he faded his rush attempts for whatever reason. I have no idea. He read like 25, 26 times. EC, you better learn. All right, next game. And I learned the hard way against the Maestro last weekend. I thought I'm going to back this Division II guy. He's going to do it 2 weeks in a row. They were terrible. And now they travel to the Big Easy to take on the Saints team that looked really good last week. They're 4-4, tied with the Atlanta Falcons in first place in the NFC South. Both of you, so Maestro, we're going to start with you. Both of you like the Saints in the same way in this game. The number is 7.5. The total is 41. Larry, where are you headed?
Yeah, this is the second leg of my teaser with the Browns. Lay the 1.5 with the Saints. You got to take a little grain of salt of what they did to the Colts because the Colts secondary is so bad right now, but still putting up the 38 points that New Orleans did, finally breaking out and scoring some touchdowns instead of only field goals. And now I'm just asking them to win by 2 points at home against this Division II quarterback. And we saw, the Chargers do not have a good defense. And they could do nothing against the Chargers. Now they go to New Orleans, which has a much better defense and an offense that is really clicking. As RJ pointed out, they put up over 400 yards in 3 straight. So even though the Bears made a nice acquisition today, I didn't hear what happened with Jalen Johnson, if he got traded or not, their cornerback. I still think the Saints get it done and just win the game. And we cash this teaser. I think both of us hit our teasers last week.
Yeah, you're damn right you did. And to be clear, Maestro has the Saints at -1.5 and the Browns when he gave it out on SportsLine at -1.5. RJ, coming to you. You also like the Saints same way, yes?
Yes, I would play the Saints -7 straight if you can still access 7. I think that's mostly gone from the market now. So we were playing it in a teaser, getting it down to -1.5. That offense is improving. They've had some struggles this year, but they had 7.7 yards per play against Indy. Carr looked great going downfield, hit some big plays with Rashid Shaheed. And they're getting it done now offensively, which was a worry for them for a lot of this season. The defense wasn't great last week, but they're still 6th in yards per play. They are struggling with the run, and you figure if the Bears are going to have any success, it's going to be running the ball. I don't think they're going to have any success passing the ball. Did not expect much from Tyson Bagent going on the road, even in that very, very good matchup for him against one of the worst defenses in the league. And he's facing a much tougher test here in a second straight road game. The Chicago pass defense had been playing very well the last few weeks, completely fell apart against the Chargers. I think that New Orleans is capable of taking advantage of that. Jalen Johnson didn't get traded from my understanding, but it's not like he had a big impact last week. I don't think Montez Sweat is going to have a big impact in this game either. If New Orleans gets up by 10, I'm not worried about the backdoor cover with Tyson Bagent running this offense. So I think that you can cover that a big number here, but because it's on the other side of 7 now, we have to tease it. So New Orleans -1.5 first leg of my teaser.
And for all of you fans at home, football is a little bit different than baseball because of the playbook and stuff. When a player gets traded, he doesn't necessarily step right in. Baseball, you can't get in there and you can hit and play. But in football, usually it's not right away. So keep monitoring that. Of course, we'll talk about it all on Early Edge at noon on Sunday and then at 7:30 p.m. Eastern time. For RJ, that's the first leg of his teaser. We'll get to the second leg coming up shortly. Now, where are you going to place all these bets at? Well, hundreds of you, into the thousands now. Gosh, your loyalty is amazing to us. New BetMGM customers can sign up today, get $200 in bonus bets. Just place your first wager of at least $10, and you will receive $200 instantly in bonus bets, regardless of your wager's outcome, with bonus code EDGE200. That is bonus code EDGE200. Now, this next game, fascinating. Because the Baltimore Ravens, now that they've got their quarterback, there's no more drama. There's no more do we keep him, do we not? Now they're starting to talk about playoffs. Now they're starting to talk about, are they the best team in the AFC? That remains to be seen, but they are rolling. And they welcome a Seattle Seahawks team, RJ, that now is all of a sudden a first-place team in the NFC West because the 49ers can't win a game. So the number is 5.5. Total is 43. Your take, sir.
Yeah, Seattle's somewhat lucky to win that game, but 6.6 yards per play against Cleveland, like I mentioned earlier, very strong number for them. Offense is now 7th in yards per play. Their defense is 5th in yards per play. They're an underrated team. They're very good, and I don't think people are giving them enough credit. They could be on a 6-game winning streak right now because they completely outplayed Cincinnati in that loss, that 17-13 loss. If they win that game, they're on a 6-game winning streak, and I think they're getting talked about a lot more like the Ravens. However, the nature of these last few games for them seems like a team I want to fade. The market's just not letting me do it by inflating this line so much. I think the line should be closer to 4 here. Ugly offensive day for Baltimore despite the 31 points. Just 4.5 yards per play against Arizona is not great. You could say Seattle hasn't been tested during that run, playing a lot of bad teams. Neither has Baltimore. I mean, Detroit was the best opponent for both of them, and you look down the schedule besides that, and it's not a lot of great teams. Seattle's good enough in power rating for me that I think this line, like I said, a little high at 4. I would lean to Seattle. If it gets to 6, I might end up playing Seattle.
Maestro, as I sit here and think, and I pause because I don't really know where I'm headed because I like both of these teams, and RJ's make me think in so many different ways. How are you attacking this one at 5.5?
Yeah, that was a very dramatic pause. And I was also caught up in my thoughts about this game because this is, we have a great matchup in the morning from Germany. We have a great matchup at night, and this is probably the best matchup during the day. I'm going to lean with the points. I don't think the Seahawks are getting quite enough respect, and it's reflected also in the division marker where you see the 49ers at -300 to win the division, and the Seahawks actually lead the division, and they're +250. I think they keep it close. I think the Ravens have not really been tested at all the last couple weeks. You know, they came out against a Detroit team that was a no-show. Then they went to Arizona. They're in for a fight. The Seahawks run defense, top 5 in the league, and that is very important against Lamar Jackson.
All right. Michael in the chat says, I'm just here because I can't do this quality of work. Michael, they are 2 of the absolute very best. Now, Phil says, any last questions? Got to get this baby girl in her Elsa costume. Didn't know that he referred to himself as a baby girl, but I'm anxious to see Phil in an Elsa costume tonight. So send pictures in, Phil. We'll put them up on SportsLine for you. Front and center. Now, the last 1 o'clock Eastern game of the day. The Bucs, somehow, gentlemen, just a half a game back of first place in the NFC South. I don't know how they've done it. The Texans, I tell you what, next year, the year after, this is going to be a legit team, RJ. They're favored by 2.5. The total is 40. Where are we going?
You can call these teams the Houston Buccaneers and the Tampa Bay Texans. They are the same team right now. Both are coming off of disappointing offensive days. I think Houston's offense is slightly better. Tampa Bay 32nd on third down, but first in red zone rate. Houston's offense 7th on third down, but 26th in red zone. So Tampa Bay has the advantage in the red zone. Houston has the advantage in on third down there, and that's the exact same thing if you flip the other side of the ball. They both kind of line up in the same way. Both defenses are great versus the run, struggle a little bit versus the pass. Both offenses can't run, but they're solid passing. I mean, it really is very, very similar teams. And so because of the similarity, if you can get 3 here, I like catching 3 with Tampa Bay on extended rest. Their offense played a little better last week against Buffalo than I think they have been in the past. So I would go with them, but I want to get the 3. I don't want to play it 2.5.
You know what I say next year or the year after, Maestro, but when you look at it, Houston's 3-4. If they can go on a little bit of a run, they could very much be alive in a few weeks for a run at a wild card spot, because I think Jacksonville's proven to be the class of that division. Are you a believer in the Texans?
In this game, I am. The Buccaneers' pass defense is pretty bad, and we saw the Bills do whatever they wanted offensively. Then they just took their foot off the gas. There's no way Tampa Bay should have covered that game. Yes, I'm still stinging about it. But the Texans' pass offense, I think, is going to carry the day and cover the number if it's less than 3.
I always feel like losses hang with me, but nobody compares to you. Nobody's more in it than my man Larry Hartstein. That's for damn sure. All right, you guys know at CBS we got a lot of different platforms that we're super, super proud of. We always have to support each other. This weekend, it's a chance to watch legends, perhaps for the very last time.
An NWSL semifinal Sunday you'll never forget, with an icon leading the Shield winners against a legend who's hanging up her boots, and a budding star looking for back-to-back championships against a squad determined to give their captain a grand finale. All on CBS Sports Network.
It all starts on Sunday at 7 Eastern time. Can't wait for that. All right, let's move on to the 4 o'clock games on Sunday, gentlemen. There's only 3, 1 at 4:05, 2 at 4:25. Colts, that number is 3 now in Carolina. Obviously, both teams somewhat disappointing this year. Total 44, but yet you both like a side here. RJ, I'll start with you this time.
We're taking the Panthers at +3. At first glance, their offense was no better last week, 3.7 or something like that yards per play. But it was really a failure of the run offense, and it was a failure of Bryce Young taking too many sacks. I think he had 6 sacks in the game. He did have his best yards per attempt and quarterback rating by a mile. Looked better going down the field. Indy's defense just got burned by New Orleans downfield repeatedly. So this could be a good breakout spot for him and Thomas Brown as the play caller to finally get things in motion and score some points here. Carolina's defense is 8th on third down and solid at creating turnovers with interception rate. And who likes to create turnovers more than Gardner Minshew? He should not be laying points, especially on the road, especially laying 3 points. So getting +3, even if it's the Panthers, I think is a great value here. I actually think the Panthers should be favored. I think they're going to win this game.
And Larry, why do you agree with RJ?
100% agree. Well, this game means a lot to Frank Reich. He got fired despite going 40-33 with a couple playoff appearances by the Colts. And now he turned over the play calling to Thomas Brown, and it worked out in the first game. RJ pointed out some of the metrics were much better for Bryce Young. Yards per attempt, passer rating, everything was the best that he's had all of his rookie season. And also the head coaching was better. Frank Reich noted that he had a better handle on the entire team. They only committed 3 penalties. That was their lowest all season, maybe because they're more organized and Frank Reich isn't worried about what play to call. This team, I believe, is still getting better. The Colts, 38 points allowed in their last 3 games. They have no corners left whatsoever. They're in real bad shape in the secondary. And like RJ said, 9 turnovers by Gardner Minshew in the last 3 games. I predict he will make at least 1 big mistake, enabling Carolina to cover.
Yeah, I'm still a little bitter about. We had the Colts in a teaser at +8.5. They had 3rd and 14 against the Saints and gave up a 54-yard bomb and then a field goal with 25 seconds to go to not cover. Teasers aren't automatic, ladies and gentlemen. They are not automatic, even though it feels that way. Now, this next game, it may only be on in 2 markets because of the last 425 game this Sunday. And I'm talking about the Giants, and I'm talking about the Raiders. And New York lost Tyrod Taylor on Sunday against the Jets in that loss. The Raiders last night, could you look any worse if you're Jimmy G? The Lions just turned the ball over time after time, and they still could do nothing. 7 of the 14 was a pick six. Raiders stink. Now they're at home, but they're favored by 2.5. The total 37.5. RJ, is there any way, shape, or form we play this game?
The total's 37.5. It might be 34.5 points too high. You might get a 3-0 final here with these offenses. It is hilarious to me that you say, could they look any worse about one of these two offenses in this game? And you're not talking about the team that had -9 net passing yards in a game, which somehow is possible to do. And they did it. They had -9 net passing yards by the Giants in that game because once Tyrod got hurt, they did not let Tommy DeVito throw the ball at all, and it was all running the ball. The Giants defense, though, continues to improve. They were helped by the weather in that game, but they should have won the game on their own despite that quarterback situation there. There was some trickery by the Jets offense spotting the ball on their own. That game should have been over. They should not have had a chance at that field goal there. Vegas, awful rush offense, awful at interception rate, awful at everything offensively, like you said. When I said last week when I was saying fade them, that having Jimmy G back doesn't matter because they don't score points anyway. I think there's going to be another good game from the Giants defense. If Daniel Jones is back, I want to back this Giants team. If it's Tommy DeVito, couldn't back them. I don't care what line you give me because they showed no confidence in him as a passer. So if it's Tommy DeVito, play the under. If it's Daniel Jones, play the Giants.
I like to think I'm pretty good sports fan, that I kind of know what I'm doing. I'm pretty good at my job. I'll be completely honest with you. I had never heard of Tommy DeVito before Sunday when I switched it over to the game. Not one time in my life. That tells me where the Giants are. Maestro, your thoughts?
Yeah, he wasn't even good in the Big Ten. Daniel Jones has been cleared for contact, and I expect him to go, which is why this line has dropped from 3 down to 2.5. I'll still be on the Giants because, well, first of all, the Raiders team total under, you can just play that every single week. They're 8-0 to the under this year. They have not scored 20 points as an offense yet this season. And you're right, Coach, they couldn't have looked worse than they did. Very listless, didn't want to tackle anyone by the end of that game. The Lions outgained them by like 350 or 370 yards. It should have been a massacre on the scoreboard as well. And like RJ said, the defense of the Giants, even though they traded one of their key linemen, played very well. They should have won the game. If Saquon Barkley keeps his feet late in that game, they would have won. I mean, how is Saquon going to feel, though? 36 carries, and they'll definitely be relying on him. But still, Daniel Jones, and maybe the one thing I should have started with, Brian Daboll versus Josh McDaniels. I'll take Brian Daboll every time.
Every single time. Didn't you guys feel awful last night? I love players that care, and I'm okay if players show it. Devontae Adams is absolutely just gut punched right now. He wants to win so badly, and you just said it. Not one time the entire season they score over 20 when you got arguably a top 3 wide receiver at your disposal. Were you either one of you surprised that he didn't get traded today?
Not from the comments that they said. They said there was no way they were trading them, but they don't feature him in the offense, so I don't know why they wouldn't trade him. And so, I don't know what they're doing. I felt bad for him. I wanted to give him a certain fast food taco brand. I felt like that might have cheered him up a little bit because it seemed like he really needed some cheering up in that game.
At least when he went home, he had it waiting for him, right?
Exactly.
Commercials say. Maestro, your thoughts on Devontae Adams real quick?
I mean, it has to rip your heart out when you literally beat your man by 5 yards and then the ball is overthrown by 10 yards. So that, but a little bit on him, though. He dropped a key pass on 3rd down that he should have had. But it's just disheartening to play for the Raiders right now.
I really felt the way that we lost the Ravens game. I thought we're going to have the worst backdoor cover of all time. Luckily for the brand, we hit like all of our prop bets because they had so many yards for so many players. Gibbs, Amon-Ra St. Brown. I mean, it was great. Thank you, Raiders defense. You stink. Now, this game could be the game of the week, with all due respect to the Dolphins and the Chiefs. Cowboys and the Eagles both looked good last week, but the Cowboys looked phenomenal, scoring 40 through, coming out. I think they had over 20 in the first. It was just a buzzsaw from the word go. But this week, this is where the rubber meets the road. This is where Dallas needs to decide, are we good enough to play for the division? Are we good enough to challenge for a Super Bowl? Or are the Eagles still that much better than us? So as I look at my notes, Maestro, I'm going to start with you. Eagles favored by 3. Normally this means Sportsbook thinks on a neutral field it'd be even. Total 46. Your take.
Getting the full 3, definitely looking at the Cowboys early in the week. I think they've been more impressive the past 2 weeks. That extra rest before the Chargers game seemed to get them back on track, and then they completely dismantled the Rams. The Eagles, even though they're winning, it's just not as impressive as it was last year, making some big mistakes, obviously down by the goal line. I'm going to look at the Cowboys +3, but I haven't locked anything in.
Okay, so Cowboys maybe +3. RJ, let me come to you. What did you make? Was it more impressive how the Cowboys beat the Rams, or that the Eagles for the second time figured out a way to beat Washington?
Yeah, I think the Dallas performance was more impressive just on the whole. It's another game where the defense carried the team to a big early lead. The offense didn't have to do much, but unlike early in the season, the offense did do a lot. Dak was fantastic in that game. And the Philadelphia defense struggling to stop the pass. We saw Sam Howell throw for about 800 yards against them last week. So I think Dak can have some success in this game. Philly has lost a turnover battle in 4 straight. Their offense is 24th in interception rate, where Dallas's defense is first. They can create some turnovers here with Jalen Hurts, having to rely more on his arm with the knee injury, not as mobile. We saw he didn't barely run in that game last week. Who knows? I don't think he's going to be healthy enough to do a lot of running here. And so he'll rely on his arm, and I think create some turnovers here. Despite the Philly records, I actually trust Dallas more on offense and defense right now. I think 3 is a great value for this number. So I would take Dallas +3. I don't think it's going to get any higher than that. I think the Cowboys are legit at this point, and they're going to come in and have a good chance of winning this game.
Yeah, and the Eagles have shown that they can be had in different ways. So I agree with you. I think this number stays right there at 3. Now, the way kind of the NFL does their scheduling, this is not really a quirk, but there's going to be a lot of stories this week, as we know, for Sunday Night Football. This is the field. This is the moment. This is the time that a year ago, Damar Hamlin went down and literally died on the field, resuscitated, and now he's back living his best life. It's an incredible story. But now they have to get back to football again. Bengals favored by 3. They look fantastic. In San Francisco, they were by far the better team. Offense looked great. Joe Mixon was running fast. I loved what I saw from Cincinnati. Bills come to town. Who is the real Buffalo team? 48.5. And RJ, this is the second leg of your teaser. What do you like?
I have the Buffalo Bills on the teaser because the line is down at 2.5 at MGM, and I would tease them up to 8.5, expecting a close game here. The look ahead was Buffalo -1, shifted all the way to Cincy -3 in some markets. I think it's completely warranted. I think you have to adjust them way up now. I had adjusted them in my power ratings about halfway up to where I would have had them at full strength before the season, coming out of the bye, thinking that Burrow had a chance to shine and look very good. And that's what he did. And so I think you just have to consider them completely back now. One of the better teams in the AFC and one of those top 5 teams here. So I've restored the Bengals fully in my power ratings. This is at 3. I think that's still the ceiling line with Buffalo being on extra rest, with the offense looking back in form versus Tampa Bay. They're 3rd in yards per play, 2nd on 3rd down, 2nd in the red zone. And Josh Allen, key to note, had 41 rushing yards in that game. His previous 4 games, he had been under 20 in each of them. I think he might be healthier now, more willing to run. This is a big spot where he's going to need it. And despite that dominant win, Cincy's defense allowed 8.2 yards per play to San Francisco's offense, even with the injury that San Francisco has on their offensive line and some of the receivers. Buffalo's defense first in sack rate. They can get some pressure on Burrow here, and they're going to need to win the game. But either way, I think the offense is good enough to keep it close and keep it within 1 score. So my teaser is Saints -1.5 and the Bills up to +8.5.
I'm so glad you used the word healthy as well, because sometimes when you come out of a bye week, Maestro, you can tell that certain players have gotten healthy. I thought Joe Burrow moved as best or better than he's ever moved this entire season based off the leg injury we know that he started with. So I love that RJ's taking this up to 8.5. How would you attack this game?
I'm going to look to go over the total. Joe Burrow, 28 of 32 against the Niners, and we've seen him pick apart this Buffalo defense. And right now, this Buffalo defense is very depleted. Even though they showed out pretty well against the Tampa Bay Buccaneers, this is another level entirely, facing Burrow and Chase and Higgins, etc. And on the other side, like RJ said, the Bengals defense has not been that great, and Buffalo's offense has been great pretty much the whole year. It was just they had a turnover stretch where they had 2 turnovers in 3 straight games that started, hurting them as they got close to the end zone. But I think both offenses are going to have a great night, and I'm going to go over the total.
And I love the fact that it's Sunday night football, so we can see how we do during the day and then load up at night with just one single solitary game. Now, gentlemen, do not look now. But the haters are going to be out, oh, this game stinks, whatever. But if you just ask a random person on the street, who has a better record right now? The Jets, the hosts, or the Chargers, the visiting team? Well, most would be incorrect. The Jets are 4-3, above 500, coming off a win over the Giants. Now, the Chargers looked great against the Chicago Bears, but they're 3-4, a full 2.5 games back of the Kansas City Chiefs. So, Maestro, let's start with you on this one. Are the Jets going to continue to figure out a way to just get wins in ugly ways, but they're getting them?
Yeah, I would lean towards the Jets taking the full field goal because, that's the strength of the Jets is those cornerbacks and that pass defense. And against the Chargers, that's what they need to do to be successful. And Justin Herbert had a great game at home against the Bears, but this is another challenge entirely. So I'm going to lean towards the Jets. And they also have a shot, Robert Saleh does, at Coach of the Year, because if he can take this team to the playoffs, and they got through the worst part of their season 3-3 when everyone expected maybe 1-5 or 2-4, if he can get this team to the playoffs, 600 plus 600 for Coach of the Year is a pretty good look.
It's been amazing. It truly, truly has. And RJ, as I come over to you, from the first night when the Jets beat your Bills to last week grinding it out against the Giants, they have figured out a way, and you got to give the entire team, offense and defense, a lot of credit. Can they get this one done?
I think they can. I don't know that they won that game. I think it was kind of ref assisted there. Like I said, that last field goal shouldn't have happened. It was the ref never spotted the ball, and they were able to somehow get away with that and kick that field goal. I didn't have either side in that game. That's just my observation in that game. Offense was terrible. I know it was raining with awful weather, but it's not like it was super windy. They should have been able to execute better than they did. The offensive line health is an issue for the Jets. Just so many guys got hurt. They were down to their 4th string center. They're bringing in, I believe, Roger Saffold signed on the practice squad. He's going to get elevated to active roster pretty quickly and start for this line. And they just have to make it work on the offensive line. Now, if they can do that, they can win this game because Zach Wilson can succeed against the Chargers pass defense as 32nd in yards per play if his offensive line is holding up and he's not running for his life. I had Chicago as 32nd in power ratings, Tyson Bagent, so I'm not marking up the Chargers for their dominant win there. This look ahead was 1.5. It seems like the market is marking up the Chargers, or maybe they're just marking down the Jets a ton with their injuries. I think the Jets defense can keep this team in the game now that their DBs are healthier. We saw DJ Reed, Sauce Gardner come back for that game, and I think Zach Wilson can go and get this W. I would play it at Jets +3. If it gets down to 2.5, I'm probably staying away.
All right. Very, very good. By the way, a lot of you have sat here for the last 47 minutes and witnessed 2 of the greatest NFL minds in the business today. Now, if you want more NFL, if you want more content, all of that, these 2 guys run SportsLine in NFL. But I'm going to do you a solid right here and right now. We want you to be a part of what we're doing. Use the promo code COACH, and I'm going to give you 60% off the quarterly plan, 3 months. And after that, we're all the way into almost February, getting ready for March Madness, baseball again. Come see what we're doing. Knowledge is power. Hashtag educate and entertain. That's what we're all about at SportsLine. Now, grab your paper, grab your pencil. My guys go through their best bets one by one. RJ, let's start with you.
I have the Commanders +3.5. I do not think the trades of the defensive ends make that much of a difference considering how bad that defense has already been. And I think that they can take advantage of this bad New England team that should not be laying 3.5. I have the Panthers +3 at home against a quarterback in Gardner Minshew who should not be laying 3 points on the road against anybody considering how bad he is turning the ball over and that defense has fallen apart. I have a teaser. I'm taking the Saints down to 1.5 and only have to beat a very bad Chicago offense at home by 2 points. I love that. I'm taking the Bills up to 8.5, a little shakier because either team could score 50 in that game and it wouldn't shock me, but the Bills offense playing just too well to not keep that game within a touchdown. So teaser is Saints -1.5, Bills +8.5.
As soon as I can get past being completely irritated by the way Derek Carr celebrates, I think I can root for the Saints. but he drives me absolutely insane. Anybody else? Put it in the chat. Does he drive you insane too? He does to me. Maestro, you're up.
If you watch the Carolina Panthers post-game celebration, you know that they are playing hard for Frank Reich, and they love Thomas Brown, the new play caller. I like the vibe with this team going up against a non-existent Colts defense. Give me the 3 points at home with Carolina, but I also like them to win outright and get their second straight win. And then the teaser, the Saints are playing Tyson Bagent. The Browns are playing Clayton Tune. Enough said.
I can't even imagine a universe, boys, where the Saints don't beat the Bears by 2 points. I can't even imagine what that game would look like to not beat the Bears by at least 2 points. Wow. All right. What another great show. Join us every single week live. There's a reason we do this show on Tuesdays. Beat the number. Half points, full points, they absolutely matter. So with all that being said, pay it forward. Be kind to one another. Remember, we're doing this together. And there's only one thing left to do. And I believe you all know what that is. You've got your marching orders. Let's take all of these NFL tickets straight to the pay window. Brian Tyker, the stoic one, RJ White. My man, the maestro, Larry Hartstein. The snake always behind the scenes on the ones and the twos, making the show look like $1 million. We're every single Tuesday at 4 p.m. Eastern time. We grind for you so we can win with you. It's truly what we're all about right here at the Early Edge. Good luck.